I founded Birthday Direct first as an 3x6 cart in Regency Square Mall. I was going to UNA studying interior design and decided I'd want to make some money over the Christmas time. I had a credit card with a $5,000 limit, and I filled it up with candles and sold candles and sold candles and sold candles till I cleared $18,000. So I took that $18,000 and opened a little small party store. I didn't have enough money to open a whole party store, so I kind of just wanted to focus in on first birthdays and baby showers. So that's what I did, and I did pretty good at first. My son, he was 16, and you should always hire your 16-year-old son because he knows everything. He told me that I needed a website, and this was like 20 years ago, and I'm like, what's a website? And he's like, oh, you get online, dial up, AOL. I was like, okay, I'll get a website. So I called the guy at Highway, because back then, Highway was it here. And he says, well, you need a name for your website. And, there was all kinds of names available back then. So I got Birthday Direct. So my company became Birthday Direct. So my first website, I just had a phone number on it. It said, if you need party supplies, we have Mickey Mouse, we have Tarzan. I think back then there was Butt Ugly Martians, which, okay. So anyway, had my phone number, and every darn the phone didn't ring. And it was like, hello, I'm in California, I want to buy party supplies. And I was like, really? And so I'm like, well, I have this, I have plates, you need plates? Yeah, you need cups? Yeah. So I took the credit card over the phone. Then my son comes up to me and he says, you need a shopping cart, Mom. And I was like, what's a shopping cart? Yeah. So back then a shopping cart was Java. It was very clunky. No encryption whatsoever. I believe the credit cards were emailed to you. If you only knew innocence back then. But before too long, the internet became the majority of my business. And I went from 900 square feet to 3,000 square feet. Made some mistakes along the way. Decided to have 2 stores, then 3 stores, then 4 stores, then 5 stores. But I realized that most of my profit was coming from the internet. It was cash forward, which is a philosophy that I've always followed, which means they pay for the order before I ship it. So I come to the realization that, most of my profit was coming from the internet, not the stores, and the majority of my headaches was coming from the stores. I also decided to open a bakery. Big mistake. Learned how to bake and decorate cakes really well when I fired my baker 2 days before Christmas. So the bakery thing was a mistake. Again, not enough of a return on investment. So as the orders started picking up, we were cannibalizing our inventory in our stores just to keep up with the flow. And so we finally decided just to close the stores and to keep just one as kind of a, showroom and go from there. I started with kind of a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of innocence. I learned over the years, it would be nice to be able to just go through with enthusiasm and innocence. I don't know how the company became so large. Now at the level that I'm at, it's more of a chess game. There is a lot of strategy, but I've had 20 years to adapt to that. So I've learned to become very influential in my industry. I'm now on the creative boards of all of my competitors, which means that they fly me in and show me their next year's lines, which really helps when I design my own lines, which is pretty cool. But it took a lot of years for me to get the respect, you know. One of the things about my industry, I think that a lot of people, as they get older, you know, because I've been in it now for 20 years, been online for almost 20 years. When we go to internet conferences, they, you know, come up to me and they're like, oh, you're an early adapter. Let me shake your hand. And I'm like, that makes me old, you know. But curiosity, you know, in order to not age out of my business, because the party supply business, it's all about what the kids are watching on TV. What's the last movie? What are they into? You know, are they into roller skating, or are they into skateboarding? You know, it's all about pop culture. And I've seen a lot of my competitors, kind of their CEOs sort of age out of the business to where they're lacking that zeal, they're lacking that youthful spirit, they're unable to put their thumb, you know, on the pulse of the young ones. So I try to stay a kid. You know, I go to all the kiddie movies and I read all the kiddie magazines and flip through all the kiddie shows. And one of the most important thing, I think, is to surround yourself with cool kids. You know, so I have a second company that I co-own with several of my officers from Birthday Direct, which is our creative arm. And that's where we have our designers that design our party patterns. We have our writers that write for the internet. They write for not only the conversion from the public, but for SEO, search engine optimization. Photographers, you know, all of those things is in our creative arm. And we fill the creative arm with cool kids, you know, smart people, people who know what's cool and what's not cool. And so we're able to adapt quickly. You know, if they say, Doctor Who is the thing, or this week it was ostriches. And I'm like, what? And they're like, ostriches, they're you know, they're on Pinterest and they're on Etsy and they're cool. And I'm like, okay, give me something in ostriches, you know. So it's all a matter of, in my industry, being very curious, being very alert, watching what's going on around you. Believe it or not, Taylor Swift has a huge effect on the party industry. Her video that came out, you know, where she's the superhero and she's fighting with all those other superheroes. We decided to make a pattern called Supergirl, and it went to print, and we will be receiving it soon, based on that whole girl power movement. Her newest video, Wildest Dreams, is set in the 40s, the stage of glamour, movie goddesses, and so forth. We're doing really well with 20s for proms, so 40s. You know, so it's all a matter of keeping your thumb on the pulse of what's going on. That's how you keep relevant in my industry. And I guess in a lot of industries, it's a matter of curiosity and innovation, that type of thing. You know, let's talk about. We are currently working on launching another site. Tim, my CTO, that's Tim Elam. Years ago, we reserved over 100 websites back when it was easy to get websites. And so now we're slowly launching them. Balloon Direct, we're launching right now. It's going to offer free shipping on balloons nationwide, which I think is going to be pretty cool. The way that I began to become relevant in my industry was several years ago. I was touring Hallmark's production facility right outside of Kansas City. It's like next to this big prison, Lebanon or something like that. Anyway, they were like, oh, we got this pattern, this license that we signed up. I think we're just doing cards in it. And, you know, is there any traction, any interest in it? And I said, well, what's the license? And they said, Twilight. I'm like, I'll take your whole run if you'll run it for me. And they're like, really, Twilight? She said, our people say it's really trending to an older demographic than typical party. And I'm like, well, maybe so, but I'll take the whole run. And they're like, well, you know how it works. We're going to have to offer it to Walmart and offer it to Target and offer it to Party City. I'm like, I know. I said, well, you do me a favor, don't tell them that I'm interested in it. And so anyway, they come back and they said, well, everybody else passed. I said, okay, I'll take Twilight. Twilight was ginormous. We were so tired. We had built orders and built orders. Walmart had taken a keepsake cup from Twilight. And so Thomas, my general manager, would call Walmart's office, their line, and find out how many keepsake cups they had every day. And we'd buy them. So we had an exclusive on Twilight, so it was pretty cool for 3 months. Hallmark called me about 30 days later, and after, you know, it hit, the movie hit, and everything was crazy, and they're like, Walmart wants it. And I'm like, well, you give me 90 days exclusive. And they're like, you're right, you're right. So about 3 years ago, Hallmark, again, come up to me, and they're like, we got this pattern, we're just really thinking cards, and it's this, we just don't know what to do with it. It's got these grizzly old men. They got these long beards, and it's from Louisiana. I said, well, what's it called? He said, Duck Dynasty. I said, we'll take it. We'll take the whole run. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, really, we'll take the whole run. They said, well, you know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to call Walmart. We're going to have to call. Anyway, they all passed on Duck Dynasty, too. Yeah. Yeah. So we rode the duck for a long time. It was pretty cool. But, yeah, I just being observant. And, you know, these guys up in New York or, you know, Pennsylvania, whatever, they just don't have their, you know, John Deere's and other, you know. Harry Potter. We have exclusive Harry Potter. We've done really well with that. And I didn't realize it's the biggest draw at Universal Studios was Harry Potter, you know. Yeah, so it's just a matter of paying attention to the culture around you. You know, like Taylor Swift, just what moves, you know, what's moving the industry. You know, who are your power players and what are they doing? And, you know, and when I started, it was movies. You know, movies was the big drive. Now there's more of a lift from a video, you know, a DVD release. And you know, as the years go by, it's, you know, it's internet. Angry Birds, you know, that was driven by a game. You know, we do really well with, you know, sometimes Batman's doing really well with us, and you're like, Batman? Where's the media for that? It's a game. You know, so the world's changing, and it's easy to age out if you don't make changes, if you don't adapt, if you don't surround yourself with really smart, young people. Makes sense?
So what you're saying is because you keep up with what's going on in the world and you're more flexible, you can beat Walmart to the draw.
Yeah. Also, we do a lot of our manufacturing right on site.
On site, I was gonna,
We don't have layers and layers of management. I'm CEO, I'm the creative director, and for birthday direct, I'm the sole stockholder. So basically, if I say yes, it gets done. Like ostriches. I said yes to ostriches. I had artwork after lunch. I approved it. My writers got on it. My graphic artists got on it. And we were selling that product before we closed. There's no way, my competitors can do that. And that's the cool thing about being on their creative board, because I'm flying out Sunday to go see the 2017 line.
Can you clarify why you're on their creative board?
Why
they let you on their creative?
Because I can tell them it's going to sell, it's not going to sell.
So they respect your opinion.
Mm-hmm. Because I've been right so many times. And so most of the time before they go to production, they will ask me, what's my feel for it? So they don't get stuck with stuff that they can't sell. Or the opposite, Paw Patrol, I told them, I said, it's dogs. They got police hats, they got fire hats. It's going to sell. It's going to sell good. And I said, that's the one I'd lay my money on, right there. Of course, they have all these layers of management and all that. They didn't make enough. They ran out in 2 weeks. But they said Sherry was right. She said, go deep on that. Jurassic Park, we picked that one. Huge. Yeah. It's also about trust. It's with the new Star Wars that came out, we had to sign a $50,000 non-disclosure, and they shipped the Star Wars stuff into my warehouse before George Lucas, because at midnight a certain day is when the first picture of the new Star Wars characters can show. And so they trusted me enough to ship that into my warehouse, which they didn't do the Walmart. They didn't do, because they didn't, So at midnight, we turned it on and started selling. As for everybody else, it shipped the next morning to them, so there's, 3 or 4 days before they could sell. So it's about trust. It's about, when you say you're going to do something, you do it. When you say you're not going to do something, you don't do it, So that, and I do that because I'm on their creative board. If they're going here, and then the other company that I'm on their creative board, if they're going here, we go somewhere else. We don't step on them. Plus, it takes them a year to react, so we're always way ahead of them anyway. So.
You mentioned when I guess you went from 900 to 3,000 square feet or something like that. Mm-hmm. So what's your total square footage now of all your business?
We have 70,000 square feet in 5 buildings. 70, yeah.
How many employees?
About 75 across all the corporations. I have several.
Do you have locations throughout or all here in Muscle?
We call it the compound.
Satellite offices or?
We have one store that's on Avalon, and it's in the Dollar Channel. That's so that I could buy from the Dollar Channel. So I own a corporation called Dollar Carousel, which the party industry is segmented into channels. There's grocery, dollar, mass, and then party and specialty. And so in order for me to have control or fingers in all of them, I've had to have, I don't have a grocery store yet.
Is that in the plan?
Well, they usually group grocery and dollar together, so far.
Have your competitors offered to buy you?
I receive a buyout offer at least once a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the price is right?
Yeah. I received an offer. I can't disclose, non-disclosure. Anyway, I received an offer for my opinion on a company that was selling in my industry. And they said they'd fly me out and they'd give me whatever I asked. And, me thinking, oh, $500 per hour and a per diem, And I'm like, I say, okay.
Too low.
Yeah. And so then I thought about it. If I say something good about this company and they buy them, then I've helped my competitor. And if I say something bad about this company and they don't buy them, I've pissed off my competitor. So sometimes the best way to win is not to play. So I decided not to play. You know. But I should have asked for 1,000. Any more questions? Yeah.
You didn't touch on your engagement point. Do you have a point here about engagement? I'd like to hear more about that if you want to expand on it.
Okay. Engaging employees?
Yeah.
Okay. To me, a natural leader builds up those below them instead of tearing them down. And a lot of that is knowing your workforce. There's many times that I've hired somebody and they were a poor fit for one part of my company, but after I get to know them, I, find something about them and change them to another position, and they become a superstar. So, a lot of it, first we start by, I'll interview 50 people before I hire one. And then after I hire them, we wait a few months to see if they're, if they're birthday direct material, I guess is how you put it. But most of the time they are, because we're very careful about who we hire. We have very low turnaround, and I always try to say things in a positive way. Instead of "you're not doing this right," I say it might be more productive if we did it this way. So it's, and when they're doing something good, I come out there and say, "Cool," or if we have 2,500 orders and with the crew that we brought in that day we can only handle 1,100, I go out there and I actually do some of the work myself. It accomplishes two things. It lets them know that, I'm willing to jump in the trenches with them, and also our production rate climbs significantly when I'm on the floor. So.
What's the hardest job that you've had to find in this area? So, does the Shoals area have enough qualified people for your company?
Yeah, I use the pool at UNA for most of my people. Graphic artists are hard to find. Not good graphic artists. It's graphic artists that can be trained in our creative company is called Moxie, in our method. It's hard to find someone that can produce, because we're just constantly producing. So I guess graphic artists and writers are the hardest to find, because although Tim has got guidelines for our writers, he trains them. Because you're not just writing for conversion, you have to write for conversion and search engine optimization, which is it's a balancing act. And so, but we have a method, and I guess writers and graphic artists are the hardest way.
What kind of writers are you talking about?
Copywriters for product descriptions, category descriptions, that type of thing.
Do you do work for other companies with that, or only in-house?
We're pretty much in-house. We're very self-sufficient. I think we're going to outside for some coding work. You get old, you got to adapt. But everything else has always been in-house. Excuse me?
You write it for other
Do
companies?
you write for other companies?
No. In fact, we're always overwhelmed, because if we weren't overwhelmed, we wouldn't be a normal day for us. So we don't, because we have Party Supply Direct, we have DollarCarousel.com, we have Moxie.com, we have Birthday Direct, now we have Balloon Direct. We're working on Savvy Invites, or Invite Savvy. Anyway, so we have 100 sites to build, and so we'll never run out of work.
So your management structure, obviously with you growing, you've had to change that over the years. Your CEO,
Well,
do you have a CFO or do you have CPAs or like management?
well, my company's pretty much a monarchy as opposed to yeah. I do have a general manager who's my chief marketing manager, also chief marketing officer. My chief technology officer is Tim. My daughter has a master's in business accounting, and she manages all the money.
From
Perfect.
UNA, all of them UNA, yes,
So
yes.
that's perfect.
My CMO is a master's UNA business, Dr. Boer. My daughter's master's from UNA, Tim's UNA.
Sounds
Yeah.
like you have a good team.
We do, and that's pretty much it. There's the four of us, but it's definitely a monarchy. I make the decisions.
What do you like best?
Yes, matriarchy. Yes.
Any other questions?
I do.
Okay.
About advertisements, so what's your best source of advertising online?
Uh,
What's the percentage of what you're actually spending on advertisement?
We have a ginormous Google campaign. Google, of course, brings most of it. The last few years, for the first time, I think last year, mobile, our visitors from mobile outdistance our PC visitors. Mac or iPhone brings more now than traditionally. You know, so it's changing. We were just part of a pilot program with Google. Was it 6 companies that chose? 6 companies that chose nationwide to work with Google on a mobile conversion pilot program. We were one of the 6.
Say that again. Say that again.
Oh,
for everybody
okay.
to hear that.
Google chose 6 companies nationwide to work on a mobile conversion pilot program, and we were one of the 6. And so we worked with Google. One of the reasons they chose us was because we were a monarchy. I mean, basically, I could talk to, and Tim can talk to the Google people, and they can say, how about we try this? And I'll say no or yes, but not, we need to go to board, you know. Also, we're in-house. Tim writes the code. In fact, I think we surpassed the other 5 as far as being able to input the changes that we needed. Yeah, it was a great program. It really brought our mobile conversion up. The new logo was part of that meeting with Google. They're the Google people. We showed them 6, and they were like, "Oh, we like that one," you know. So it's like, well, if Google likes it, okay. You know.
And you agreed with them.
Yeah, of course.